welcome to the Lisa podcast. If you don't mind just introducing yourself and letting us know who you are and a bit about your journey to get here.
Sure. My name is Austin Cooper. I've been big in sobriety. I've been sober since April 10th, 2013. And really it's been, the most amazing past 4 years of my life. I back in 2016 started kind of an online community called Sober Evolution, and it's been a lot of fun and fulfilling, and I've been able to meet a lot of amazing people through it, and it's really been something that's been able to help a lot of people. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio in the United States, and last year moved down to Florida, and so that's where I'm residing right now, about to try to wait out this big storm that's coming our way.
Yeah, okay, cool. And what sort of was your motivation to start this online community?
Well, early on in my sobriety, I really focused on building myself in all different areas. So, I knew building myself physically would have so much to do with my mental state and helping me become mentally healthy. And it proved to be very, very true. And then as things went on, I started working on personal development in my life, and that really built me up and helped grow my confidence and really helped me find out what I'm passionate about. And really, in the process of that, I was able to share my experience, strength, and hope to many people, and it really seemed to help a lot of people. And so, in my mind, I was like, how can I share my experience, strength, and hope, and everything that I was learning in this journey of personal development? How can I spread that to more and more people? And so, I looked around at, a few options, and I thought, how cool would it be to start something on Instagram? I was reading and going to a lot of conferences for life building and personal growth, things like that. And I was getting, I was listening to these incredible, even quotes or mindsets or principles that, people had implemented into their life to really build it. And I started using that. It started really building my life. Or I would see a quote and it would really change the whole course of my philosophies and in my life. And so I knew that using Instagram would be a great way to share some of those quotes and those mindsets and philosophies, and that it might be able to help other people as well. And really, starting back in January of 2016, right away, it just started growing. People were sharing everything that I was saying and sharing. And, I, like I said, been able to meet so many amazing people, and it became, almost like a networking thing to where, we were really working together to, build even more sobriety communities and things like that. And so, yeah, back 2016 started it, and it, has grown to, I think there's over 30,000 followers on Instagram now. And then it moved, we moved a bunch over to Facebook and a website. And so that's just growing and growing and growing. And I think, it's just shedding a really bright light on recovery, because, I've been able to have so much fun throughout my recovery because I'm really, I guess, pushing myself, and I'm finding out that if I can accomplish what I accomplished by, admitting to myself everything, and then, becoming willing to make some changes in my life, I was able to accomplish a lot early on, which showed me that I can keep accomplishing things and keep growing. And so, that's kind of what started it all, and I'm glad to see where it's gone, and I can't wait to see where it's going.
Yeah, cool. It sounds really awesome, and I guess similar to my story in a lot of sense. But how would you say, you said you almost built on your own growth, if that makes sense, and it showed you the possibilities. How would you define sort of the first, getting the ball rolling? As they say, getting that first bit of momentum is really hard. How did you go from being an addict to getting that first bit of momentum?
Really, the first thing I had to do is become completely and 100% honest with myself. And that, was very difficult because, for 10, 15 years of my life, I was not honest at all. I'd come up with excuses for everything, and I'd justify, everything, to do things that felt more comfortable at the time instead of what I needed to do. So I had to become 100% honest, like zero lies. If I caught myself lying, I'd have to, completely turn that around. And as hard as, it, or as scary as it may seem to be honest with ourselves, after I did that, that really set a foundation for me to really build my life on top of. And, so that was, number one right there. And then having the willingness to do whatever it takes to get out of my, current circumstances and situations. And that meant, making certain sacrifices that, of course, I didn't want to have to make, but I knew that, if I'm surrounding myself constantly with alcohol and drugs after deciding, to get sober, I'd be at a lot of risk. And so I really had to make sure that I wasn't always around parties and drinking and all of that stuff. And so, I really from day one decided, my life was just going downhill so fast. And once I became honest with myself, I knew that alcohol and drugs, I had a problem with it. And I knew that, I couldn't manage it. I had tried it for a long time. And so I knew from day one, like, I'm going to be sober for the rest of my life. Let's accept that. And let's just move forward. I had to accept it. And really the moving forward was, well, how am I going to have fun in sobriety? I think that was one of my biggest fears, that I wasn't going to know how to have fun. So let's figure it out. And so first thing that I really started doing and creating habits with, like I said earlier, was my nutrition and my physical health. I knew from taking psychology courses and nutrition courses previously in my life, I knew that my brain would be deprived of dopamine, serotonin, all of the endorphins, because I had relied on drugs for so long that my brain became, dependent on those drugs to make me happy and make me feel good. So I knew that I'd be completely deprived of it, but I did know that by changing my diet around, by working out, hardcore or exercising hardcore, I'd be able to naturally build those things back up in my brain. And so I'd be able to, within 30 days, hopefully, regain the happy chemicals going to my brain. And it worked. And I just kept pushing on. And I realized, how great it is to kind of go a little bit outside of my comfort zone bit by bit. And I knew it would be uncomfortable, especially in the beginning, to work out, because I hadn't really, I would do push-ups and sit-ups here and there for years during my drinking and consider that working out. Well, that's just, I was completely plateaued by that point of doing those things, and really it wasn't exercising to where I needed to. And so, of course I knew I would be uncomfortable, but it takes about 21 days to create a habit. So that, with that, piece of information, I was like, okay, let's exercise for 21 days straight, and let's eat healthy for 21 days straight. And really just within that time period, it became second nature. And by accomplishing small goals with, my fitness and my nutrition, I was, it was fulfilling too. And that gave me a boost of confidence and everything. And I was like, if I can accomplish these little goals, I can keep accomplishing little goals. And then I wonder where I'll be a year from now if I keep accomplishing these little goals, because in the big picture, a lot of little goals is a huge, huge goal and a huge, huge difference. So that kind of delayed gratification mindset, really took me forward from that point on, and really has led me to where I'm at now.
Yeah, so it sounds as if you sort of changed your peer group and got to the understanding that these drugs were like giving you endorphins and like feeding your pleasure center. So then you found something else that would also feed your pleasure center, then gave it the 21 days to start to change your habits. But I'm wondering how you think self-worth links into this. So for me, like, I used a lot of drugs because I had low self-worth. And what I heard from what you were saying is through going to the gym and building these positive habits, it almost seemed like you were building your self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, one of the reasons why I started drinking when I was 15 is because I realized it kind of, I had self-esteem issues before I started drinking. And so once I started drinking, those self-esteem issues seemed to go away. And so that's kind of what got me started on the habit of drinking alcohol and then using drugs. And, of course, it spiraled way out of control beyond that. But And so, once I quit drinking, I was almost back to being that, 15-year-old kid with self-esteem problems and things like that, and self-worth problems. And yeah, once I started accomplishing these little goals, it was this boost of self-esteem, realizing, that I am able to do some pretty incredible things in life. And, another thing that's really helped with the self-worth is giving back by, sharing my experience and really being able to see it help other people in their lives. So, those things really showed me that, without my experience and without me sharing it, I'm not really helping anybody but myself, which is also a good thing. But it would help me even more if I'm able to help even more people. And, it really gave me the sense of purpose, just in the fact that, I can really, even if I just change one person's life out of the 7.5 billion people here on earth, like, that is purposeful, because you're changing someone's life for the better. Like, that's an entire lifetime that can change into them changing other people's lifetimes, and so on and so forth. So that, just showed me, the purpose, I think, of life, which is giving back and helping people and helping them change their lives for the better. So, yeah, I think all of those things kind of added up to, helping me find my self-worth and self-esteem.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, that sounds really interesting. And like you say, like, really noble that you've gone ahead and done that. But what would you say, like, did you have any like specific like tips or techniques like that you learned from like the personal development industry or anything like that?
Well, I mean, the biggest tip was something that I hated before, but was to read these personal development books, because for the longest time, like, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a kid, which is the hyperactive disorder. And so my mind couldn't stop running and running and running. And so it was hard for me to focus on things like, certain school subjects that just weren't interesting to me. But so I always used that as an excuse to not, really read books. I just hated it. And it was like, taking your fingernails and scratching it down a chalkboard to me. Like, that's how uncomfortable it was for me. I would try to read a paragraph, and, I just couldn't retain the information. So I'd have to read it over and over and over again to retain anything. But I, kind of gained a mentor, which was a huge change. So I guess I should mention gaining mentors and coaches. That was huge, huge, huge for me. And so what this mentor told me is that you look at everybody who's really doing what they want in life. So they're, succeeding at whatever. And I'm not talking about money, but I'm talking about, doing what truly makes them happy in life. All of them are reading personal development books and these growth books. And so it's like, why would I think I'm an exception, to that? And then you look at, the people that typically aren't, really doing what they want, and they're less likely to be reading those books. And so I'm like, okay, I listened to my mentor. And so he gave me a book, and I read it, and I had to read the chapter over and over and over again to retain it. But I started gaining these habits with reading as well, even as grueling as it was. And so, I started practicing what was in there. So I took it very, very seriously. I had to really retain that information, and not only do that, but start practicing what it was, explaining, because these were real life situations that people would use, and these principles that people would use in their lives to grow them. And so some of that being like character. And it's like there was this one example in one of the books that I'm talking about, which changed my, views on character. And it gave a task, and it said, one of the best ways to really start building your character, as funny as it sounds, is if you go to a grocery store. Sometimes you'll see people leave carts right in the parking lot instead of putting them back to where the carts go. So if you park there and you see a stray cart laying there, bring the cart back and put it into one of those, where you're supposed to put the carts. And even if nobody in the world knows that you ever did that, the thing is, you are doing something that is helping someone out, because later on that night or day, someone's going to have to go all the way out in the parking lot and grab that cart, or it can create a problem in parking or whatever. So it just said, keep doing that, just do that. That's going to be a basis for building character. And what I noticed through that pretty early on, within a couple of weeks of just doing that simple task, is that I was kind of doing things that I would have considered before as going out of my way to help people, but I was just doing it naturally and didn't even think twice about it. And so it kind of grew my character. And so I started doing that, and I was like, wow, like this is, and people would start conversations with me. People would come up to me and, you know, be nice. And it's like the universe just works in this mysterious way that when you're really doing good, out of the kindness of your heart, you know, good things start happening to you. And so I was fascinated, so fascinated by that I just haven't been able to put books down since. I was like, man, these are giving these really good tools and techniques that, you know, have really been growing my life. And man, I could just, I've read so many books, I can't even keep count anymore. But you know, they've really been able to open me up to new philosophies and ways of life and ways of thinking. And, you know, my life's just completely different because of those things and because of having a mentor and a coach. So hopefully that answers your question or part of it. But
no, yeah, definitely. And I think it was Albert Einstein that said you can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it. And I think you do really have to learn to solve your problems and read books. Me personally, I really like audiobooks. I'm not like a big sit down and read a physical book, but I listen to audiobooks all the time, and I think that massively helped. But maybe this is a good thing for both of us. Like if we both say like 3 books we thought really helped us, we can watch back and like listen to each other's books, and it'll give some benefit to the audience as well.
Oh, absolutely, man. Totally. I totally agree with that. I love sharing. You know, I love, you know, I'll be at a coffee shop or something, which I used to hate doing as well, but I knew that would put me out of my comfort zone and would get me used to being out in public and around people because I was, you know, pretty shy. But what happened with that is I'd be sitting there with a book. Someone else would sit down there with a book, and they'd either compliment the book or ask about it, or I'd ask about their book. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'm forming a relationship, and we're sharing these principles and practices from different books. And so we're really sharing this valuable information, or, you know, being able to suggest certain books to each other. And it's really amazing how that kind of networking can really benefit your life.
Yeah, so what would be your sort of like 3 books, if you could give out, say like 3 books that really helped you, what would they be?
Yeah, one that I read a little over a year ago, and I've read it 2 or 3 times since, was The 4 Agreements. And it was really amazing just because, you know, even throughout my sobriety, like sometimes I would kind of overlook some of the lies that, you know, I was convincing myself of. But the 4 Agreements was such an incredible way of just kind of in a nice way showing me what the truths of life are and what the lies of life are. And so it really opened up my eyes, especially in my daily life, to, you know, kind of point out what is the truth of life and what are, you know, some of the lies of life, if you will. You know, it was so easy for me to look past the truths, I guess, some of the true things that, you know, some of the things that I can't change, some of the things that I can change in life. What are they? And you know, the truth is that I can solve this problem if I'm willing to do the work and put it in. And the lies are, oh, it's way over my head or way out of my comfort zone. I can't do that. That's the lie, you know? So the 4 Agreements has been really, really big. Another good one was The Slight Edge. And that one taught about delayed gratification. And I know that's kind of it's almost tied in with business, but it's also so much about life. I mean, you know, really the principles that are used in all of these books, you know, even the 12-step everything, you know, they all use the same principles because they've been around forever. They're not going anywhere, and they just kind of spell them out in different ways. And so the Slight Edge really hones in on the principle of delayed gratification, which, you know, for me being an addict, all I wanted was, you know, gratification now. Like I wanted to be gratified right now. And, you know, so I would go out and use, or I'd go out and drink, and then there's my little bit of temporary gratification, but then obviously there's consequences to that. But the delayed gratification, a really good example he gave was, even if if someone told you to read 10 pages out of a book tonight, you'd be like, well, that's kind of a waste. One, it's only 10 pages. It's not anything that's going to really drastically affect my life. So why would I, waste 10 minutes on reading 10 pages? But the thing is, if you read 10 pages every day for an entire year, you've read 3,650 pages. You've read a ton of books. And so kind of getting in that mindset that if you do a little bit each day, a little bit of growth each day, you really go a very long way over a period of time. And also, you look back, say 3 years ago, you can, if you really think about it, you can think of a moment 3 years ago, and it really seems like it was just yesterday. That's how fast time flies. Well, guess what? The next 3 years, they're going to fly by too. So you might as well put some extra effort in each day and grow each day, because in 3 years from now, you don't want to be stuck at the same place you're at now. You want to be way beyond that. And so, the time to start is now, and put a little bit of extra effort in each day. So that was a really big one for me. Let's see. The third one was probably the first book that I read. And I know I'm not a big fan of the title, and I know a lot of people do know what this book is. It was written a long time ago. It's called Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Now, the one that has shown me so many incredible principles that also showed me that, the principles of success with no matter what you want to do. Like, I'm not even, again, not talking about money, but it's succeeding at something you love, finding your passion. The principles of success are universal. They do not change. So succeeding at being, healthy, succeeding at, not drinking or using drugs, succeeding at being happy, succeeding at your job, business, whatever it is, the principles are exactly the same. And so I had to understand that. And that book really kind of drew that out for me. And it showed me all of these different examples of, what that really means. And so that kind of was the base, for not only just me reading, but kind of opening my eyes up to what personal development really was. And that it's not just this, mumbo jumbo, guru BS. It's real, and it's very necessary, for those of us who really want to build our lives and be happy and find what we're passionate about. And so that book opened up my eyes. And what's amazing is, I've been able to talk to a lot of people who are doing those things that they are truly passionate about. I mean, hundreds of people I've talked to, and 90% of them, I'll ask, what was the book that really, changed your life or changed your perception, or that you give credit to the success that you're experiencing now? 90% of them say, Think and Grow Rich. And it never ceases to amaze me, because it's always like, wow, that's, same here, and so I guess those first three aren't in any order, 1 to 3, but those would be my top 3 for sure.
Yeah, okay, yeah, awesome. I'll do my 3, but also I've read Think and Grow Rich, and I'd also highly recommend it. It's a really good book, and I think Napoleon Hill was one of the great motivational people in the world, really. But mine would be Waking Up by Sam Harris. That's a really good book about challenging the concept of your mind. And then there's another one called The Road Less Travelled. I can't remember the author, but I'll put it in the show notes. And that's really about how
that one.
Yeah, and that's about psychology and how you're sort of how you emotionally develop. And another one's called The Power of Now, and that's about presence and being in the moment and understanding you are not your thoughts, you have thoughts. And they're 3 really good books that I found helped me along my journey.
Yeah, I'll have to write those down. I know I've heard of the last 2. I haven't heard of the first one, but I'll definitely write those down and start reading those too. I'm excited.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. And just as we're sort of coming to the end, what are sort of your next steps for sort of your life? Yeah, where's it going?
Well, I mean, it's really just still personal growth. I think through that is where opportunity comes from. And, of course, I want to build Sober Evolution to be so much more than it is now. And, I've just got some obstacles that I need to figure out. I don't stress about them. I used to stress about this kind of stuff all the time. And so really, one of the things I'll mention real quick is like what helped me get rid of the stress of like decision making and things that are coming up in the future is just understanding that I'm going to be okay no matter what. Like I'm not just going to disappear, and die if I make the wrong decision. And so it's like, no matter what, I'll figure something out to get out of, any bad situation that I might be. And if I'm in a good situation, great. So, I don't stress over any of that. So I'm really just looking forward to continuously building who I am, figuring out different avenues of growing Sober Evolution to where I can help more and more people and figure out ways of helping more and more people help more and more people. I think those are some of my big goals. A podcast actually is kind of out there in the making for myself. I mean, I love them. I think they're awesome. That's why I'm so excited to be a part of yours. Because, it's such a great way of spreading a good message and helping people. And, I maybe starting some work to help other people with their social media building and their marketing building, as well as with, different alumni programs. I think that's something that's very much needed in the entire treatment industry because, a lot of these people, they graduate from treatment center and then that's it. They're back out into the world and don't really have much of, that camaraderie and teamwork. So, trying to figure out, the best possible way to create an alumni program. And so, yeah, I'm working with, a bunch of different people and figuring those things out. And so that's kind of what I do outside of Sober Evolution, but continuously growing and, accomplishing goals. I think all of those things are just, that's what I foresee, at least for 2017. And then, 2018 will come around and we'll really see what else there is out there. So, there's a whole world of opportunity out there, really. Anything that strikes, my interest, I just go for and, try to accomplish it.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Yeah, well, we'd love to have you back on the podcast at some point. And thanks very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to watching more of what you do. So I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, okay, cheers.
All right. We'll see you later.
Okay, so yeah.